Have you ever been driving down the highway, your mind drifting through random thoughts from the day when suddenly the sunlight disappears? Not because clouds rolled in, but because something massive, shiny, and aggressively chrome just slid into the lane next to you. A brand new truck, so big that if it sneezed, your sedan might get launched into the next state. The paint is glossy enough to double as a mirror for every questionable financial decision the driver has ever made. The rims are blinding. The leather seats look like they cost more than your rent. The screen inside is big enough to binge an entire season of Netflix. And the monthly payment, well, if you actually heard that number out loud, your mortgage broker would probably start crying. You know exactly the kind of truck I'm talking about. The one advertised as rugged, built for adventure, ready to conquer anything, even though 99% of its life will be spent conquering grocery store parking lots and the grass at the county fair on weekends. You glance over, and in that very human moment, you think, wait, how can they afford that? Here's where it gets interesting. Because there's a very real chance, not guaranteed, but very real, that the person behind the wheel of that chrome monster makes less money than you do. They're not a secret millionaire, not a crypto genius, not living off a trust fund. They might be a teacher, a nurse, a mechanic, an office worker, just a regular person with a very regular paycheck. So the question isn't, how rich are they? The question is, what the hell is actually going on here? Welcome to Mind Invests. And if you're thinking, great, another video lecturing me about money, don't worry, I hate those too. I'm just someone who spends way too much time thinking about money and even more time thinking about why smart, decent, hardworking people keep making financial decisions that are, honestly, kind of strange, especially when it comes to cars. I'm not here to judge. I'm here because I've been that person staring at a monthly payment and thinking, yeah, I can probably make that work. And if you've ever wondered how your neighbor is driving a $70,000 vehicle while complaining about grocery prices, or if you've ever looked at a car payment and thought, it's high, but I'll figure it out, then you should probably stick around. And hey, if content like this helps you see things a little more clearly, you know what to do. Hit subscribe. Give the video a like. Not for the algorithm, but because this might end up saving you a lot of money. Because this isn't a story about secretly rich people, and it's definitely not a financial miracle. This is a system, a carefully engineered system designed to turn there's no way I can afford that into, It seems manageable by getting you to focus on one small monthly number while ignoring the much bigger picture quietly dragging your future in a direction you didn't choose. And once you understand how that system works, you'll never look at trucks on the highway or your own car payment the same way again. And once you understand that this is a system, you start to notice that its most effective trick isn't complicated at all. It doesn't require secret algorithms or contracts written in microscopic font. It just needs to change the question. Because the moment you walk into a dealership, nobody asks you, how do you feel about spending $62,000 on a vehicle? No. The question is always, what monthly payment feels comfortable for you? That's the exact moment everything shifts from finance to psychology. Americans today don't buy cars based on the price of the car. We buy cars based on the monthly payment.
So the
At that
main
point, the
difference here
car
is the
stops being a
speed, which allows us to
$60,000
process
object and
everything
turns
much
into
faster than
something that
before.
feels familiar,
Optimizing,
like
as you can see
Netflix,
from this
like your
overview,
phone bill,
the
like
opportunities
health
ahead of
insurance,
us are
just
significant.
a little more
We just
expensive
need to
and stretched
capitalize on
out
the
over
market
nearly a
trends.
decade. But your brain doesn't see that part. Your brain just sees, okay, $720. I can handle that. That's what I call payment brain. Payment brain is the state where your mind quietly shuts down every function responsible for long-term thinking. It doesn't want to know the total cost. It doesn't want to know how much interest you'll pay. It definitely doesn't want to know what that car will be worth in year 6. It asks one question and one question only: can I survive this month? And if the answer is yes, it gives you permission to sign. You can be incredibly smart in every other area of your life. You might compare airfare across 5 different websites just to save $40. But once payment brain kicks in, you'll gladly trade $15,000 of your future to save $40 a month today. I've watched this happen so many times, it's basically a ritual. Someone sits there arms crossed negotiating hard. Eventually, they force the dealer to knock $40 off the monthly payment. They leave feeling like they won. What they don't realize is that to get those $40, they agreed to extend the loan by 2 years, add a warranty, and throw in a couple of peace of mind extras. Total cost. They just bought a car that's $10,000 to $15,000 more expensive. But hey, cheaper per month. Pop the champagne for that victory. Now at this point, you might be thinking, okay, but everything's more expensive now. Wages have gone up too, right? Sure, in the sense that they technically increased. If you squint hard enough, look from far away, and don't compare them to anything that matters. Income crept up slowly. Car prices surged. Interest rates climbed. Loan terms stretched to cover the gap. The result is a collective magic trick where everyone convinces themselves, well, that's just how things are now, even though the numbers are very clearly not on the same team. That's why payments that would have been considered insane 10 years ago are now described as reasonable. Payment Brain doesn't compare your car payment to your annual income. It compares it to last month. It doesn't ask, what will this decision do to me over the next 7 years? It asks, will I still be able to afford gas next month? And the entire system is designed so you never have to look past that question. So before we go any further, burn this into your brain. A monthly payment is not the price of the car. It's bait. A number small enough to get you to nod, familiar enough to make you feel safe, and dangerous enough that you don't realize you just bit into a decision that will follow you longer than the average American marriage. And once you've taken the bait called the monthly payment, the system's next move is almost always the same. It smiles, slides a piece of paper across the desk, and says something that sounds perfectly reasonable. If you want a lower payment, we can just stretch the loan out a bit. Just a bit. 2 years? 3 years? No big deal. And just like that, quietly and without much resistance, American car buying culture slid from 36 to 48 months to 72 to 96 months, and now in some places, even 120 months, 10 years, for a car. That's basically a mortgage timeline, except houses usually go up in value. Cars do not. Back in the day, if someone told you they had a 3-year car loan, you nodded. 4 years. A little aggressive, but still reasonable. Today, if someone says their loan is 8 years long, nobody even flinches. They don't ask why. They don't ask how much the car costs. They just ask one thing, what's the payment? And that right there is the problem. We didn't extend our patience. We extended our pain tolerance. Take the same car as an example. Say it's a $60,000 truck. On a 4-year loan, the payment is high enough to make you swallow hard. It forces you to confront an uncomfortable truth. Maybe you shouldn't buy this. But stretch that same loan to 8 years and suddenly, magic happens. The payment drops into the range of, yeah, that's manageable. Your brain relaxes. Crisis averted. Except for one small detail, the total amount you pay jumps by tens of thousands of dollars. Interest piles up. Time stretches out. And you've just turned a financially uncomfortable decision into a financially dangerous one. This is what I call the time trap. Because the car doesn't care how long your loan is. It depreciates on its own schedule. Your debt, meanwhile, shrinks on the bank's schedule. Those two lines cross somewhere around year 5 or 6, and that's the moment you fall into something everyone in the industry understands, but very few people ever explain clearly: negative equity. Think of negative equity like a hole. In the first year, you're still near the edge. Year 2, year 3, it feels like you're making progress. But by year 5 of a long loan, you look down and realize you're at the bottom. You owe more than the car is worth. The vehicle is getting older. The tech feels outdated. The warranty is about to expire. Repair bills start knocking. And through all of it, the payment keeps showing up like clockwork. No sympathy, no flexibility. Here's the cruelest part of the game. Once you're in that hole, your options disappear. You can't sell the car without writing a check. You can't trade it in without rolling the old debt into a new loan. You're locked in. Not because you're lazy, not because you're bad with money, but because time itself has been used as the thing that traps you. Extending the loan doesn't make the problem easier. It just delays the moment you feel the full cost. So remember this, because it matters more than any spreadsheet you'll ever see. You're not extending the loan. You're extending your vulnerability. Every extra year isn't just another year of payments. It's another year where you're hoping nothing goes wrong. No job loss, no major repairs, no income changes. And hope as a financial strategy has never been a particularly strong plan. After you nod yes to that long-term loan, you think you're done. The paperwork is signed. The car is picked. In your head, the story is basically over. But in reality, that was just the end of Act 1. Then someone stands up, smiles politely, gestures down the hallway, and says something that sounds completely harmless. All right, let's head over to the finance office and finish things up. That's the moment you walk into the F&I office. If the dealership were a movie, this would be the tonal shift. No more bright lights, no more shiny cars. Just a quiet room, comfortable chairs, cool air, and someone speaking in a calm, soothing voice like they're reading you a bedtime story. They're not selling you a car. They're helping you feel protected. And somehow the vehicle you thought you already bought starts getting fitted with financial accessories. Everything happens smoothly. Extended warranty, gap insurance, service plans, protection packages. Each one is presented as a responsible adult decision. You don't want to worry if the transmission fails. What if the car gets totaled? This protects the paint and helps resale value. It all sounds reasonable. And then the magic phrase appears, it's only X dollars more per month, only a little more. It's always only, never the total number. Never you're adding $4,000 to your loan. Because here's the real secret, all of it gets folded straight into the loan. Nothing is paid separately, nothing that hurts right now. Your monthly payment still looks fine. Payment. Brain applauds. You've just turned your car into a long-term financial subscription with no cancel button. This is where a lot of people completely misunderstand what just happened. They leave the dealership feeling like they bought a safer, smarter vehicle. But what they actually bought was an expanded debt package where every peace of mind feature is financed with time and interest. You're not paying today. You're paying with future years of your life. And because everything is folded into the loan, the real cost is delayed just long enough that you don't react. Then the 0% APR sign enters the story like a guardian angel. It sounds incredible. Free money. But this is real life, not the commercial. 0% isn't a gift. It's a trade-off. You either take the 0% and pay a higher price for the car, or you take a lower price and pay interest. You don't get both. And those 0% deals usually come with tight qualifications, shorter terms, and are offered to the same people who didn't need them in the first place. So what's the result? A lot of people drive away thinking, I bought a car. But on paper, they bought a layered financial contract where the car was just the opening move. They're not only paying for transportation, they're paying for comfort sold in advance, financed by their future. And that's the true nature of the F&I office. They don't sell you risk. They sell you relief right now at the cost of you several years down the road. After leaving the F&I office, most people walk out with the same feeling. All right, it's done. Now I just make the payments. And for the first 2 or 3 years, that actually feels true. New car. New leather smell. The screen is still smooth. The payment fades into the background like just another bill in your life. Then one day, very naturally and very harmlessly, a thought shows up. I've been driving this thing for a few years now. That's when the real monster steps into the light. Not the loan, not the interest rate, the trade-in game. The script is almost always the same. After about 3 years, you start getting bored, not because the car is broken, just because there's a new model. Bigger screens, better headlights, ads telling you it's safer, smarter, more efficient. Or you have a perfectly reasonable excuse, the family's bigger now. We need more space. This doesn't really fit our lifestyle anymore. All of it sounds logical, so you head back to the dealership just to take a look. That's when the dealer pulls up your file and says a line that's become terrifyingly familiar. You still owe a little more than the car's worth, but don't worry. We can roll it in. It sounds like magic. You don't need extra cash. You don't have to write a check. The old debt just disappears, at least on the surface. In reality, it doesn't disappear. It gets repackaged and placed onto the new vehicle. I call this debt luggage, an invisible suitcase you carry from car to car. Every time you upgrade, you're not starting from zero. You're starting with old baggage slightly heavier, carefully hidden inside a new loan, so the monthly payment still looks fine. Picture a very typical American family. Suburban house, 2 parents, 1 kid, then 2. 3 years ago, they bought an SUV that was good enough. Now the kids are bigger, the gear is multiplied, and a new SUV just came out that's advertised as perfect for growing families. They trade in the old vehicle, roll the remaining debt into the new one, stretch the loan a few more years so the payment doesn't jump too much, and drive it home. They park it in the driveway and feel like they just made a responsible grown-up decision. What they don't see is that they just locked themselves into a loop. Because when you're carrying debt luggage, you become a customer for life. You can't easily sell the car. You can't just say, I'm done upgrading. Every decision now has to account for that suitcase of debt. You become a captive audience for the dealership. If you've ever seen an ad or heard the line, we can get you out of your payment, this is the illusion behind it. They don't get you out of a payment. They move you into a different one, longer, more complicated, and usually more expensive overall. You feel relief because you don't have to face the old debt right now, but the price is that your future just got packed into that suitcase. And here's the hardest truth about the trade-in game: you don't trade in the car. You trade in your freedom. The freedom to sell when you want, the freedom to stop, the freedom to say, I don't need to upgrade again. Every time you roll debt into a new vehicle, you're not just changing transportation. You're adding another layer of financial chains wrapped in chrome, polished to a shine, and made to look completely harmless from the outside. After all the numbers, loan terms, debt luggage, and financial sleight of hand, the most reasonable question is this: why do people keep running straight into it? Why, even when they feel tired, stretched thin, and suffocated by a monthly payment that eats most of their breathing room, do they keep playing this game? The answer isn't in a spreadsheet, it's in the parking lot. In America, a car isn't just transportation, it's a social ID card. It tells people who you are, what you do, and how far you've made it. A big lifted pickup doesn't just haul things, it broadcasts a message: hardworking, reliable, blue-collar pride. A glossy three-row SUV whispers something different: family-oriented, responsible, doing well. The car doesn't need to speak. It introduces you before you ever open your mouth. And the auto industry understands this better than we do. That's why ads don't sell fuel efficiency or low total cost of ownership. They sell a better version of you. The truck in the commercial doesn't commute to work and back. It climbs mountains. It splashes through rivers. It pulls boats. Meanwhile, in real life, its off-road experience is usually the grass at the county fair. But that's fine. What matters isn't whether you climbed the mountain. What matters is that you look like the kind of person who could. At a deeper level, cars function as tickets into a group. Pull into the parking lot at a school, an office, or a suburban neighborhood, and you're instantly sorted into an invisible category. No one has to ask about your salary. They just glance at the badge on the hood. And for a lot of people, the real fear isn't a high payment. It's the fear of being looked down on, of being seen as someone who hasn't made it yet. The car becomes the fastest way to avoid that feeling. That's why completely irrational car payments have been normalized. If someone said they were spending $1,200 a month on coffee, friends would stage an intervention. If they said they were dropping that much on clothes, people would check in on them. But if they say it's my car payment, everyone nods. Yeah, that makes sense. As if the laws of physics change when four wheels touch pavement. We've been trained to see massive car payments as the price of being an adult. And when someone suggests a cheaper option, the reaction usually isn't financial analysis. It's defense. Because that suggestion doesn't feel like it's about the car. It feels like it's about identity. It sounds like, you don't deserve this. And that's the core of the whole story. You're not buying more horsepower. You're not buying better technology. You're buying the feeling of being seen differently. The feeling that you did it right. That you made it. And when an object can sell you that feeling, people will pay an incredible price, even if that price is their own future, just to avoid the looks in the parking lot. After stripping away the layers of identity, status, and all those parking lot stares, it's time to do the one thing the system tries to delay for as long as possible: sit down and run the real numbers. Not what's the monthly payment, not can I make this work, but what is this actually taking from me? And this is usually the least fun part of the conversation. Let's use a very normal scenario. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated. A truck in the $55,000 to $60,000 range, a 7-year loan, a monthly payment of around $800. Sounds familiar, right? Now add the things nobody talks about when you're signing the paperwork. Insurance on an expensive vehicle, roughly $200 to $250 a month. Fuel for a large truck that drinks gas like water, $300 to $400. Routine maintenance, tires, brakes, all the unavoidable stuff easily, another few hundred a month when you average it out. And then repairs, because modern vehicles are amazing right up until something breaks. Add it all together and you're no longer paying $800 a month for a car. You're paying $1,300 to $1,500 a month just to coexist with that vehicle. Over 7 years, that number quickly blows past $130,000. And when those 7 years are over, you look down at your driveway, and what do you see? An older vehicle, outdated tech, and a market value of maybe $15,000 if you're lucky. You just spent over $100,000 to end up owning something worth about as much as a decent used sedan. That's not transportation finance. That's wealth destruction with cup holders. Asset destruction, but with heated seats and Bluetooth. And this is where things get more dangerous. Most people carrying that level of expense don't have a thick emergency fund sitting on the sidelines. When a $2,000 or $3,000 repair bill shows up, it doesn't get paid with savings. It goes on a credit card, high interest, growing balances, and the car payment keeps showing up anyway, non-negotiable and completely indifferent. That's how a debt spiral starts. Not because you're reckless, but because too much of your money is locked into something that's losing value. Now let's make an uncomfortable comparison. If instead of sending $800 a month to a car payment, you invested that same amount into a simple index fund earning an average of 7 to 8% a year after 7 years, you wouldn't be down money. You'd have more than $70,000. You wouldn't just avoid the burden of the car. You'd be building financial freedom, the freedom to choose work, the freedom to say no, the freedom to handle surprises without panic. The difference between these two paths isn't about having a car or not having a car. It's about whether you're paying for the present or investing in the future. One path gives you a brief hit of satisfaction every time you open the car door. The other gives you calm when life throws a punch you didn't see coming. And that's why this part gets rushed past at the dealership. Because when you see the full picture, the game becomes obvious. This isn't a transportation cost. This is a tax on your future. A voluntary tax collected monthly wrapped in chrome leather seats and promises of a more successful version of yourself. At this point, I want to be very clear about something before we wrap up, because this is where people tend to get defensive. I'm not here to judge you. If you're driving an expensive car, if you're stuck in a long-term loan, if you've rolled old debt into a new vehicle, you're not bad with money. You're just someone who did exactly what this system was designed to get you to do. And recognizing that isn't failure. It's the first step toward freedom. Getting out of this trap doesn't require living like a monk, selling everything you own, or driving a beat-up car while congratulating yourself for being enlightened. It just requires a different mental framework, a few simple principles. Not sexy, not advertised, but effective. First buy based on total cost, not the monthly payment. The payment is just the language the bank uses to talk to you. Total cost is the truth. If you can't look straight at that number and feel okay about it, the problem isn't the loan term, it's the car. Second, keep loan terms as short as reasonably possible. No dogma, no rigid rules. Just understand that every extra year you add is another year you're asking life not throw you a curveball. And life is famously uncooperative. Third, don't roll negative equity. If you're in a hole, digging deeper with a newer car isn't an exit. It's just swapping one hole for another one wrapped in leather and a bigger screen. Fourth, redefine what reliable transportation actually means. Reliable doesn't mean impressive. It means getting you from point A to point B without stealing your sleep, your future, or your ability to say no. A car is a tool, not an identity. And now, let's go back to the opening scene. The next time you're driving down the highway and a chrome monster slides into the lane next to you, you don't need to feel jealous. You don't need to wonder when it'll be your turn. You can look over, smile, and think, maybe they're renting a dream. And you don't have to. Because financial freedom doesn't smell like new leather. It isn't shiny. It looks painfully boring from a parking lot. But it gives you something no option package ever will the ability to choose. And if you remember just one line from this video, let it be this: you don't need to rent someone else's dream with 96 monthly payments.